All right, U10, we're back with another video looking at surface area. This time we're looking at calculating the surface area of prisms. So a prism is something that has the same shape on two sides and then rectangles that join those two shapes. So here we have a triangular prism as our first example. What we need to do with these questions is we need to draw the net. Okay, so make it into a 2D shape. Work out what are the different kinds of shapes and what are their dimensions, and set that out, and then add in the substitution of what those dimensions are to find out what the area is. Now, it's really important that we do draw the net first and that we set out our equation firstly with our statement. That's saying like the whole area is going to be the area of these different components before we dive into any calculations, okay? Because if we set the question out wrong, then your calculation cannot be right. Okay, so the reason why we take time with setting it out is because that is the most important step. Once you set it out well, you set it out correctly, you're going to get the question right. The substitution step is the easiest step, okay? If we try to skip that step or try to rush through the question, just get to the answer, we're more likely to get it wrong because we're likely to have set out wrong. We're calculating the wrong things, and therefore we're going to get a wrong answer. So let's do this first question. We're going to start by drawing a net of that triangular prism and mark its edge lengths. Okay, now the way that I like to start when I draw a net is I always try to put that bottom one, the one that's sort of touching the ground, if you will, in the middle. So I'm going to put that big rectangle. It's going to be the first thing that I draw, and I can mark its dimensions. So that's going to be 8. That's going to be 6. Okay, and then I can put the faces of that triangular prism that are touching that around it. So obviously we've got the triangles on the front and back. So we can put a triangle here and a triangle here. And we know the dimensions of these triangles. So the height of the triangle, which is our important one here, is going to be 3.3. And we already have the base written there. So this triangle has the same height, 3.3. Okay, and now lastly we need to include the rectangles. So the rectangles of these two side rectangles actually have slightly different dimensions. Okay, so this one has a length of 5 because it's attached to that longer 5 edge. And then this one here only has a length of 4. You can see it's attached to that 4 length. So we've put in all our dimensions that we need to here, and now we need to set up an equation that is going to work out. So that is part A. Draw a net with its edge lengths there. Now we don't need a right, so we know that that is going to be 8, 2. We know that they're already 6. We don't need to write that out twice. For part B, we need to calculate the surface area now. So the whole area, or the surface area, is going to be, I'm going to label all of these parts. So that middle one is A1. Now these two rectangles have different dimensions, so we're going to have to label them differently. It's going to be A2, it's going to be A3. However, these two triangles have the same dimensions. So our surface area is going to be A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus, and then we've got 2 of A4. Okay, again, it doesn't take long to write that first line, but it's going to guarantee us that we're going to complete the question correctly because we've set it up so that we can't fail. If we skip this line, then you're likely to have forgotten one of these, and you're going to possibly substitute incorrectly too. So now we just need to go through each of these components and add in their dimensions. So there are rectangles, so A1 is just 6 times 8 plus A2 is 4 times 8 plus A3 is 5 times 8. And then 2 times A4 is going to be half the base. So it's going to be half times the base, which is 6, times the height, which is 3.3. Okay, so again, this step is so much easier if we've done this step before it, because you just plug in the numbers for each of these shapes here. Okay, now to calculate this, we just put all of this in our calculator, and it helps you if you write this out, because you can check if you've written it correctly in your calculator screen. So it's going to be 6.8 plus 4 times 8 plus 5 times 8 plus 2 times a half, or 0.5, same thing, times 6 times 3.3. And so you can go through and check that you've done it correctly. Okay, I've got my triangle bit correct. I've done 5 times 8. Make sure the pluses and the timeses are in the right spot. All good to go. And then I can press equals, and I have my surface area. 139.8 centimeters, and because it's an area, it's squared. Despite the fact we're looking at a 3D shape, we've flattened it out to make it a flat shape. Okay, so let's do that again, except this time we've got an extra step we have to do. We don't know the value of that long side yet. We need to calculate that, but luckily we have a tool to be able to calculate the hypotenuse of a triangle. And we're given 2 sides, and we're trying to find a third. We don't need to use angles, so we don't need to use trigonometry. We're going to use our boy Pythagoras. Okay, equals. Let's just fix that. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Remember, C squared is always the hypotenuse, the long side. The A and the B are the 2 shorter sides. So in this example, our C squared is X. So A is going to be 4 squared plus 6 squared equals X squared. Okay, don't forget that squared there, because that side we're replacing with X. We can find out what 4 squared plus 6 squared is. It's 52 equals X squared. So that means X is going to be the square root of 52, which we're going to round. So we're going to go equals 7.211 ... equals, let's go just to 2 decimal places today. Let's make that an approximately equal to as well. Okay, so we've done part A, we found X. Now we need to draw a net of this prism. And we're going to label the dimensions of that. So again, I'm going to start with that bottom face. It's always good to have sort of a consistent way of starting out when you're drawing a net. So I'll draw that rectangle first. It's got dimensions of 11 and 6. Okay, and then I've got 2 triangles on either face. I've got one up here, I've got one down here. And the height of these triangles is 4. I can draw right angles there if I want, just to remind me that that's the height. And then I've got 2 rectangles with different dimensions. So it's going to have, this one here has the value of X that we just calculated, so 7.21. And then this one here is just going to have a height of 4. Okay, so we've got our net here. We've got all the dimensions that we need. So then calculate its surface area. So the surface area, let's call our bottom one A1 again. We'll call this one A2, this one A3, and then our triangle A4. It's going to be very similar to before. It's going to be A1 plus A2 plus A3 plus 2 times A4. Okay, because we've got two of those triangles at the top. Again, it doesn't take long to write, but it's going to make this next step really easy. So the surface area is going to equal 6 times 11 plus 7.21 times 11 plus 4 times 11 plus 2 times half. Because they're a triangle, we're going to do half base times height. So the base is 6 and the height is 4. Okay, and then I can write this out in my calculator to make sure it is all correct. 6 times 11 plus 7.21 times 11 plus 4 times 11 plus 2 times a half times 6 times 4. Okay, go through, check you got times and pluses in the right place. All good. Press equals, and voila. And we're in centimeters squared again. Okay, so going through this again, use Pythagoras to find the missing side, write your net, okay, add in the dimensions, set up your equation, and then substitute, check that you put it in your calculator correct, that it matches what you've written, and then calculate to get your answer, okay? It doesn't take long. Once you get used to doing these steps, it doesn't make it take any longer, and it just makes sure that you're not going to make any mistakes. Good luck with those questions today. Let me know if you have any questions in the Teams chat, and I'll catch you in the next video.